Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and that good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, item 3. Today, as we all know, internationally is recognized and celebrated as the Valentine Day. Locally in Ghana, we celebrate it as Chocolate Day. And so we celebrate both. I am here for you. And I'm here for Ghanaians, and I'm here for Ghana. I celebrate today as a Valentine Day for the traditional area of Awudome. They are my Valentine today. They installed me as a chief. Togbe, Awudome, Nutefewola, the first. I'm sure at the appropriate time I'll invite all of you to go for the official ceremony that will outdoor install me as the chief of the traditional area of Awudome. That is a very important title. Those of you who are deficient in the Ewe language, it means man of integrity. So we'll go as a house of integrity to celebrate it. We will also celebrate the Chocolate Day, and our partners, the Cocoa Processing Company, as usual, will make available, and I'm told they have done so, sufficient chocolate to be distributed to members. I hope they will do so to all Ghanaians. Well, this is for us all to celebrate our unique, special cocoa produced and processed in Ghana. We need to market it properly. We have to brand it and market it properly to the whole world. So this is Valentine's Day, and it's also Chocolate Day. I will permit the ushers at the appropriate time to distribute the chocolate even on the floor of the house, so that members, while celebrating the others, you can enjoy the special unique chocolate from the Cocoa Processing Company of Ghana. Whilst we wait for the chocolate, we'll proceed to handle the other items, and we'll start with item 4, which is dealing with correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. We'll start with the correction of votes and proceedings of Friday, 10th February 2023. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, page 22, Page 23. Page 24. Page 25. Page 26. Page 27. Page 28. Page 29. Page 30. Page 31. Page 32. Page 33. Page 34. Page 35. Page 36. Page 37. Page 38. Page 39. Page 40. Page 41. Page 42. Page 43. Page 44. Page 45. Page 46. Page 47. Page 48. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of Friday, 10th February 2023 are hereby adopted as the true record of proceedings. Yes, leadership.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, if we can vary the order of business and do item 6 on page 4, statements. The minister responsible for communication is still on her way, and maybe by the time we finish the statement, she should be here to respond to minister's questions. So we do item 6, statements on page 4.
Yeah, but before that, I want to know whether members have copies of the official reports. I have copies of the official reports of 7 February and 8 February 2023. I don't know whether you have it so that we can proceed to correct them accordingly. You do? Okay. So we'll start with the official report of 7 February 2023. Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. On Roman numeral 12, under Speaker's Secretariat.
Official report.
Yes, for February, 7 February.
Yes.
Under Speaker's Secretariat, item 13.
Column
13.
Column 18.
13. 1, 3.
1, 3. 13. Yes, please.
The name captured there is James Bagaba, who should rather be James Dabaga.
Column 13, paragraph column 13.
Roman numeral 12. 12. Yeah. Yes.
Honorable member, at the official reports, usually we refer to the columns. The way they are printed in columns. And then under each column you have paragraphs. So you say column 12, paragraph, that line, so and so. Then we can easily follow your submissions. Leadership, you have to up your game. I'm sure you are listening. I'm sure you've not taken members through these things. Yes, Honorable Member.
Right, Honourable Speaker, it's not at where you can capture it rightly as a column. I'm referring to Roman numeral 12, Speaker's Secretariat, item 13. Item 13, the name is captured as James Bagaba.
Yes, Honorable Member, you are referring to the list of members, but now you are at the list of the staff of the Secretariat.
Rightly. Thank you.
And you're talking about?
Item 13.
You are talking about
list, yes.
Page 12.
Yes.
On the Speaker's Secretariat, item 13. Yes.
The name should be James Dabaga and not Bagaba.
Yes, you are right.
Thank you.
It's D-A-B-G, G-A. Da, ba, ga. Not da, ga, ba. No. Table office, kindly take note. Yes. Any further corrections? Honourable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the official report of 7 February 2023 is hereby adopted as corrected. We now move to 8 February 2023, official report of 8 February 2023. Any corrections? Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of 8 February 2023 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Now we can move to the submission of the Deputy Whip.
Speaker, my earlier application, I think the minister responsible for communication and development.
The minister is in.
Yeah, she's
so we can go to questions.
Questions.
Straight to questions.
Thank you.
Honourable members, item 5, questions. We start with question number 918. Stands in the name of Mrs. De La Soa, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kwando. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister of Communication and Digitalization what plans are being put in place to increase the number of Ghana card registration from 10 daily to numbers that are feasible to meet SIM registration deadlines. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I take the liberty to wish you and the House a happy Valentine's Day. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, as part of the SIM registration exercise, continues to collaborate with the National Identification Authority to enable seamless registration of SIM cards. The Ministry of Interior is, however, the supervisory ministry of the NIA and not the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. So I'd be grateful if the Honourable Member addresses her question to the Ministry of Interior. But we will continue to encourage them to increase the number of per day in the country. Thank you.
Any supplementary question?
Honourable Speaker, I thank the Minister for that notification. I'm indeed aware that the NIA has now been moved under the Ministry of Interior, so I will direct the question appropriately. Because SIM card, Ghana card registrations in my constituency has stalled due to inability of the authority to pay their electricity bill. They haven't worked for the past 5 months, so no registration is going on because they owe a bill of 5,000 Ghana cedis. So I'll redirect the question to the Minister of Interior. Thank you.
Honourable members, we move to question number 1036. Stands in the name of Mr. Albert Tete Nyakote, the Honourable Member for Yila Krobo. Please, Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the government's laudable initiative of making telephony easily accessible will reach the following communities in the Ilokobo constituency: Sutawa, Koyue, Rapon, Pepetifi, Abua, Brukum, Opesika, Akpo, and Sikaleyi.
Honorable member, you left out some names, which meant that you are not interested in those ones.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat the question then.
Yes, so that the minister can get the exact one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll repeat my question. I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the government's laudable initiative of making telephony easily accessible will reach the following communities in the Ilokobo constituency: Samblesi, Sutapon, Sokwenya, Sutawa, Oluwahai, Koyue, Obonkoko, Rapon, Omnase, Pepetifi, Osuya, Abua, Teponya, Brukum, Opesika, Akaobana, Bosotwi, Kom, Onokle, Agojo, Obenyemi, Akpo, Akpamu, USA, and Sikaleya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, I'm sure you got the towns now. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, none of the communities mentioned by the honourable member in the Ilokobo constituency have been captured under the current Ghana Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion project. A connectivity drive test will, however, be conducted by the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications in the constituency to facilitate their inclusion in future phases of the Rural Telephony project, finances permitting. Thank you.
Honourable member, any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the minister be able to give me a date? Because at the end of response, she said when financing is permitted. What does that mean? Does it mean this year or in 5 years' time? I need a date so I'll be able to follow up with DFEC or to follow up with Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I'll be unable to give the honourable member a date from when GIFEC will get the necessary finances to permit an expansion of the current rural telephony project. I'm hopeful that the House would assist us to secure the needed funding, since it is one of the issues which are very important and critical and plague members of parliament in their community. So I'm hopeful that the House would also assist us to secure the necessary funding to expand the current project. 2016 communities across the country were captured in the current project and approved by this House. We know that there are several more which need to be included in the project. Unfortunately, we do not have the requisite financing as I speak to be able to expand the project. When we do, we will work assiduously to expand it. Thank you.
Honourable member, any more supplementary?
No more further question. Her response is fair, and I thank her for her response.
Honourable members, we now move on to, Minority Chief Whip.
Yes, right, Honourable Speaker. We thank our colleague, the Minister, for the answer. Indeed, she said this House previously approved an amount for about 2016 communities to be captured. I am aware that project is ongoing. Can she basically share light on how far that project has gone and when that will be completed before the new phase is rolled out? If you can help us with the current status of the one she talked about, the 2016 communities, because
few of my communities were captured and are yet to be still be a brief update on that.
Honorable Minority Chief, with a substantive question on this. The question that has the constituency specific, this one you need more information, and the minister has to be put on notice to prepare that information for you. So, to question number 1128. 1128 stands in the name of Mrs. Dia Lamisi Akamvarba, the Member of Parliament for Tim Pane. Honorable member may ask the question now. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I just spoke to the member. She asked me to, with your leave, tell you that the question has been asked and answered already. So it need not have to have appeared on the order paper. Thank you.
Honorable member, we are most grateful for this. Civil office kindly take note. We'll move on to question number 1233. The question stands in the name of Mr. Kwame Jujole Gakwe, the honorable member for Keita. Honorable member, you may ask your question now.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization how many communities in Keita municipality will benefit from the rural telephony project.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently, no community in the Keita municipality is included in the Ghana Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project. Thank you.
Honorable member, any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to find out from the Minister the reasons why no communities from Keita municipality is included in the rural telephony.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this House approved a list of 2016 communities, which was brought before it based on the needs that were accumulated from the various communities. As at the time, Keita municipality was not included in that list. That may have accounted for the fact of their non-inclusion. But as I indicated in the earlier answers given, we know that there are a lot more communities that also require connectivity. And finances permitting, we would extend this program to cover all those communities, including those in the Keita municipality. I would, however, encourage members to let us know which of their communities lack connectivity at the moment, so that they can be captured in subsequent phases of the program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member, any further supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I would like to find out from the Minister which criteria were used to select the communities and how are they selected?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Several members of Parliament wrote to GIFEC to indicate that they needed connectivity in their areas. GIFEC conducts drive tests in those communities and others that come to their notice. And so the results of the drive test indicate what kind of technology will be suitable for providing connectivity to those communities. So that principally is the criteria used. And that's why I'm urging members to notify us of the areas in their communities that require connectivity. GIFEC also has a database of communities that need connectivity. but these also need updating regularly. So working with members and other interested communities around the country, they do update that database regularly. Whether they'll be able to do something about that information they have or not is dependent on funds to enable them expand their current projects. Thank you.
Honourable members, who allow the honourable member to ask his next question, which is question number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the order paper. Honourable member, you may do so now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization the plans the ministry has towards erecting a mast to improve telecommunication challenges at Laushima, Agobinu, Wanyago, Shungbe, Mamime, Agoji, at Ogodo catchment areas in the Kata municipality.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Laushime, Agovinu, Wanyago, Somugbe, Mami, Hagod, and Hatogodo catchment areas are not included in the Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project. However, efforts will be made to conduct drive tests and acquire lands in these communities in order for them to benefit from subsequent phases of the project, finances permitting.
Yes, Honourable Member, any supplementary question?
No, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Honourable members, we move to question number 1325. The question stands in the name of Mr. Andrew Dare Chiwite, the honourable member for Solatuna Kalba. Honourable member, you may ask your question now.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Communications and Digitalization when the people of Sanyarik, Biniyiri, and Kaiwe will have access to reliable telecommunication services. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 31 communities in the Sola Tuna Kaba constituency are included in the Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project. 15 of these communities, namely Begu, Binyiri, Bupe, Goyiri Lobby, Gurunyiri, Honiyiri, Kolei Li, Nanori Mehiai, La Onyiri Nakpala, Pivro, La Juntanga, Poru, Tampo, Bondiel, and Bongbe are currently on air and are receiving telecommunication signals. Sites have also been acquired in Kwale and Sanyiri. However, GIFEC is yet to build any rural telephony site in Binyiri and Kawie and will consider them when they procure the necessary funds to extend the rural telephony project. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, that you have abandoned the rest of the answer. Well, on my honourable members, the minister just informed me that starting from Mr. Speaker, is the answer for question 1427. It's not captured on the answer sheet that we have. So please kindly do so. Honorable member, do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, right, Speaker. If you permit me to do a little correction on the minister's answer, I want to believe there were typo mistakes. That's why it's difficult to pronounce the names. Mr. Speaker, there's a community called Bulpie. It's Bulpie. It's supposed to be G-B-U-L-P-I-E, Bulpie. Bulpie. Then the Nanur is spelled as N-A-N-O-U-R-I. It's Nanur. N-A-N-U-U-R. Nanur. And then this other community, La Onyiri, that community is difficult for me to picture. I don't remember ever seeing a community like that in my constituency, La Onyiri. And so, Mr. Speaker, these corrections be done. My question then is, Honourable Minister, the Beneyiri area, for now they have services, but they have a little challenge. If you get to Beneyiri, we have some communities such as Kulwon, Pale, Cheten, Saru, those areas. As soon as you make a call, then we have interference from Ivory Coast. And so it's very difficult to communicate sometimes. Then when you are there and you are making a call, the charges are different from the normal charges that we have because of that difficulty. You make a call and then you hear a voice in French. Are there any way your ministry can work out to do these corrections so that we don't have interferences from the Ivory Coast or Burkina side? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's a different problem. It has nothing to do with the rural telephony project. In most of our border towns, you would get interference both ways. In the other countries, they may get interference from our networks. And in some of our border towns, you may get interference from networks in neighboring countries. The National Communications Authority works with its counterparts, the regulator in Ivory Coast, Togo and Burkina Faso, to resolve some of these challenges when they are brought to their attention. So I'll be grateful if you notify me formally of those areas which have that interference problem, and I'll bring it to their attention. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member, any further supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. My next question, the Minister indicates, as for the last paragraph, that however, GIFEC is yet to build any rural telephony site in Beneyiri and Kawie, and will consider them when they procure the necessary funds to extend the GRT DIP. May I know whether the Minister can tell us in terms of timing, so that we are assured that by close of so date, the people of Kawie area can have good access to telecommunication. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can't give any specific time when GIFEC will be able to get the necessary funds. I do know, however, that there is a World Bank project that is currently pending for approval before this House, a small component of which will be utilized by GIFEC for connectivity to unserved and underserved areas. I'll be grateful and will sincerely urge the House to approve this facility urgently for us, so that we'll be able to give GIFEC some of those funds to continue with the work that they're doing. At least that's the only fund that I know may be immediately available for them. I don't know whether that will be extended to your community, but at least they will be able to utilize that to reach certain communities. And with the help of the House, we can be able to finance some of their programs to meet some of our needs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, you want another bite?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You actually have exhausted your supplementary questions, but I can. The last one.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, then let me use this opportunity to plead with the minister so that my area should be considered. The communities such as Kawe and Biniri are unrobbery prone areas. Biniri has a very big market. It's an international market. And so the unrobbers take advantage of the non-availability of telecommunications and they harass the people there. So please do consider my district when that opportunity comes. Mr. Speaker, my last question is whether the minister is able to tell us the number of people that are connected to the various networks in the solar tunnel culvert, because the part of the answer you indicated that it's not part of my answer, but I've seen that you listed the number of people that are using the SIM cards. Are we able to segregate that district by district? Thank you.
Well, Minister, if you have the answer, if not quite this. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I believe I can get the answer for the member, but you'll have to give me some time. So I'd be grateful if you would ask a substantive question to enable us get the requisite information for him. Thank you.
Yes, honorable members, we move to the next question. Question number 1427 stands in the name of Mr. Vincent Eko Asafua, the honorable member for Old Tafo. Honorable member, you may ask your question now. Honorable members, in the absence of the honorable member to ask the question, we'll move on to question number 1429, stands in the name of Ms. Abla Jifa Gomashi, the honorable member for K2 South. Honorable member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization steps the ministry is taking to improve the challenges with the networks for communication in the K2 South constituency. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, MTN Ghana informs me that they have connectivity in Kliko, Agbozume, and the Diamond Cement area of the K2 South constituency. Airtel Tigo has 6 operational sites in K2 South, 3 of which are located in Aplao, with the remaining 3 at Agbozume, where my relatives come from, Avueme and Denu. Mr. Speaker, all the 6 sites are receiving both 2G and 3G coverage from that network. Finances permitting, will consider other communities in the K2 South constituency in upcoming phases of the Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project to help improve the network challenges there. Thank you.
Honorable member, any supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I'd like to ask the Honorable Minister whether she knows the size of the population. Let me put it in context for you, Honorable Minister. Aflau alone is as big as a constituency on its own. It had about 83 branches, now increased to 100 and over. So one mast is not enough to serve the people. And you have indicated in your response that it's a 2G and 3G strength. In other communities, it's 4G. Is there anything you can do, the communication ministry, and your agencies to improve on that connectivity so we don't have problems with data and ability to make calls? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The network operators are obliged by their license obligations to extend connectivity to district capitals, and so all of them have done that. But going beyond the district capitals, it is the commercial return on investment which largely influences their rollout obligations. We'll continue to work with them, knowing how critical connectivity is for the growth of our digital economy, to ensure that they improve the network challenges there. I do know that Aplao is a very big border community, and the economic activity there is vibrant. And so we'll work with the network operators and GIFEC to see what they can do to extend connectivity there. But as I indicated in earlier responses, if GIFEC gets additional funding to expand its operations, it will be difficult. We'll, however, urge the network operators to see how they can also include that in their rollout plans for the coming months and years. Thank you.
Any more supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, no more questions except to urge the Honourable Minister to perhaps use the telcos more than relying on GIFEC, because GIFEC has not lived up to expectations in my community. They have a computer center that I've been trying to revive. They are not supporting. So perhaps if you push the telcos more, they may be able to do something for us. But I thank you for the answers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, I'm sure you have full access to the Minister. You can have that conversation with the Minister outside plenary session. I encourage you to do so. With this, we'll move on to question number 1430. Stands in the name of Mr. Joseph Kwasi Mensah, the Honourable Member for Nkranza North. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the permission of Honourable Joseph Mensah to ask the question. He is currently stuck in traffic on his way to Parliament, and he has asked me with your leave if I could ask the question on his behalf.
Actually, I haven't heard the word.
I'm saying that Honourable Joseph Mensah is on his way to Parliament but stuck in traffic, and so he has called me to ask the question on his behalf with your leave, if you permit me.
Yes, you can do so.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization the steps being taken in Nkranza North constituency to improve mobile telephony reception in the following communities: Asioti, Binoho, Nipa Hiamwa, Ginkra, Pienina, Timuabu, Junction, Srukmangwase, Konkrompe, Proso, Amanda, Kranka, and Boama. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Esuoti, Nipa Hiamwa, Dinkra, Kunso, Pienina, Timiabu, Junction, Mangwase, Konkompe, Pruso, Amanda, Kranka, and Boama in Nkranza North constituency have not yet been captured under the Rural Telephony Project. However, drive tests will be conducted for possible inclusion in subsequent phases of the project if the needed funds are secured. GIFEC has already built 5 sites in the following communities in the Nkranza North constituency, namely Edumasa, Betoda, Boabing, Bodom, and Senya. In Boabing, I personally commissioned that site together with the Honourable Member of Parliament from Kranza North. And these sites are all currently on air. Airtel Tigo also has 4 operational sites in Kranza North. Dromakese and Yefri sites have 2G coverage, whereas Busunya and Maso have 2G and 3G coverage, respectively. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member, you have authority to ask supplementary questions too.
Yes, please, Mr. Speaker.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, the other 4 communities, which is Romankase, Yefri, and Busunya, the MP is aware they have 2G coverage there. But the communities in question is what he has asked. But it is indicated by the Minister that the draft test will be conducted in those communities. We want to know from the Minister when that will be done for the next phase of connectivity.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated in the answer, when they secure the needed funds, they will continue with the work that they're doing. And I'm not in a position to indicate when that eventuality will occur. So we'll continue to implore this Honorable August House to assist GIFEC to secure the needed funds for expansion of this project. And if we approve the digital inclusion project that is currently before us, they will get some funds to continue with their work under this World Bank project. Thank you.
Yes, your last supplementary.
Oh, thank you. I don't have any further supplementary questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, we now take the last question on the order paper. Question number 1431 stands in the name of the... Sorry, it's not the same gentleman. It's from Mr. Joseph Kwame Kuma, the honourable member for Kintampo North. Kintampo North. Please, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the following communities in the Kintampo North constituency will be connected to telephony communication network. Mansra in the more traditional area, Dweneho in the Kunsu area, and Kawampe in the Blackwater Road, same Kintampo municipality.
Honourable Member, we don't have Kawante in the question. You just added it. What we have here is Kawam.
Mr. Speaker, well, I'm just describing the locations of the area. So if you want me to be direct to the question, with your permission, I want to ask the Minister for Communication and Digitalization when the following communities in the Kintampo North constituency will be connected to telephony communication network. Mansra, Dweneho, Kawampe. The Kawam is what is captured. The P is the spelling mistake. So that is why I'm calling it Kawampe. Thank you.
Well, we'll allow the Minister to attempt. Either she got it right or she got Kawam or Kawambe. I don't know. So, Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, my information is that GIFEC has rural telephony sites in Dweneho, Kawampe, Kunsu, Manchala, and Nyame, which are currently on air. However, in Kawam, communities have not been included in the rural telephony project. Judging by the answer, I'm not sure, by the question, I'm not sure if Kawampe and Kawam are the same communities. that the honorable member is referring to. But they tell me that Kawam is not included in the rural telephony project. Airtel Tigo has 6 operational sites in the Kintampo North constituency, and they are Babato Krom, Gulumpe, Kintampo, and Kintampo Swaba, which have 2G and 3G network services, while the remaining 2, Chiranda and Dawada, are being provided with 2G network services. Mr. Speaker, the National Communications Authority will continue to collaborate with the mobile network operators and GIFEC to extend network coverage to the towns that have not yet been catered for. It is, however, capital intensive, and we will reiterate our need for the support of this august House in securing the needed funds to provide universal connectivity and narrow the digital divide. Mr. Speaker, it is also worth mentioning that out of the 2016 planned project sites of the rural telephony project, GIFEC has constructed 1,005 sites in various communities across the country. The ministry will work towards the completion of the remaining 1,011 sites to ensure network coverage for the target 4 million population living in these unserved and underserved communities. Thank you.
Honourable Member, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the Minister's answer, there's no Kawam in Kintampo North Municipality. It says, I'm sure it's a typographical error. It's Kawampe. So in her answer, she has gotten it right. It's Kawampe, no typographical error from whatever it is. But let me indicate, much as the answer is given about Beneho and all those about Tigo, I want to plead with you that the Kintampo North Municipality area is more accident-prone and robbery cases, such that because of these 2 combined effects there, I want to urge you to urgently see how you can rectify the rural telephony system along the route at the municipality to take care of emergency situations of this sort, so that the police and the security people can be of support all the time. Thank you.
Well, this is not a supplementary question. I'm sure you will continue your conversation outside the plenary session. Honourable members, we come to the end of question time, and on your behalf, I want to thank the Minister very much for attending upon the House to respond to the questions. Minister, we are grateful. We now move on to item 6 on the order paper, which is statements. But before we take the statements, it's important I revise an earlier announcement I read to the House. Honourable members will recall that on Wednesday, 8th of February 2023, I announced that the launch of the 30th anniversary celebration of parliamentary democracy under the Fourth Republic will take place on Thursday, 16 February 2023 at the Justice D.F. Annan Auditorium, Job 600. The committee planning the anniversary celebrations has advised me that the launch of the anniversary celebration be relocated from the Justice D.F. Annan Auditorium to this chamber. I was informed that the auditorium sits just about 280 persons, By necessary implication, then launching the program in the auditorium would simply mean the exclusion of key stakeholders, key partners to Parliament, such as representatives of political parties, civil society and private sector groups, both present and past state functionaries, including those from Parliament and the Executive, the Bar Association, academia, security services, and student groups. Honourable members, given the monumental nature of this event, it would be inappropriate to exclude our distinguished partners who, in my estimation, were well over 300 from the launch. The Planning Committee, upon further reflection, suggests we launch the celebration in the chamber with the benefit of both the public and press galleries to seat most of our invited guests. I would not have agreed more with the committee on this recommendation. So, honourable members, you are accordingly informed that the launch of the 30th anniversary celebrations of parliamentary democracy under the Fourth Republic will take place on Wednesday, 22nd February 2023 at 9 a.m. in this chamber. Wednesday, 22nd February 2023 at 9 a.m. in this chamber. 9 a.m. Accepted. 9 a.m. Accepted. Accepted. I thank you. We can now move to the questions, and the first Deputy Speaker will take over the chair. In the meantime, I invite the Deputy Majority Leader, who I'm told will be presenting to the House a very important statement on health. I thought, Deputy Majority Leader, you would take the advantage to come to the He's my son, so he's from both Simpa and where you come from. Where your parents come from? Yes. Oh, not your parents.
My parents come from various parts in the country.
Agbozu.
Part of my family comes from Agbozomi, Achimda, Brekum, Asante Achim Video.
How many parents do you have?
Even Yendi. Even Yendi. My parents come from, I didn't say I have parents from those places, but that's where they come from. So I am a quintessential Ghanaian.
I knew you before you were born, so yes, honourable member, you may go on.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I make this statement in accordance with Order 72 of the Rules of the House, which state that by the indulgence of the House and leave of Mr. Speaker, a member at any time appointed for statement under Order 53 may explain a matter of personal nature or make a statement on a matter of urgent public importance. Any statement other than a personal statement may be commented upon by duration of time not exceeding an hour. The terms of any such proposed statement shall first be submitted, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, according to the World Health Organization, hepatitis B is a viral infection that affects the liver and can cause both acute and chronic disease. The virus is most commonly transmitted from mother to child during birth and delivery, as well as through contact with blood or other body fluids during sex with an infected partner, unsafe injections, or exposures to sharp instruments. The WHO estimated that 296 million people worldwide were living with chronic hepatitis B in 2019, with 1.5 million infections each year. However, it can be prevented by vaccines that are safe, available, and effective. Mr. Speaker, most people with hepatitis B infections don't have symptoms, but experience acute symptoms lasting several weeks, including jaundice, fatigue, and abdominal pains. Acute hepatitis B can lead to acute liver failure and death. Long-term complications include advanced liver disease, such as cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma, which can cause high morbidity and mortality. In 2016, at the 69th World Health Assembly and governments across the globe, including Ghana, commitment was made to eliminate hepatitis B by 2030, as set out in the WHO Global Health Sector Strategy on viral hepatitis B. With less than 10 years to go, Ghana is lagging in the elimination of hepatitis B. In Ghana, it is estimated that between 3 to 4.6 million people are chronically suffering from hepatitis B, despite availability of all tools to reach elimination. Mr. Speaker, a survey I sponsored in 2019 in my constituency indicated that 8.5% prevalence rate of hepatitis B in the municipality, a disheartening situation for my people in Efutu. As of 2019, only 30.4 million people globally, representing 10.5% of all people estimated to be living with hepatitis B, were aware of their infection due to the silent nature of the disease, while 6.6 million, representing 22% of people diagnosed, were on treatment. Mr. Speaker, despite a high infection rate, viral hepatitis B can be eradicated with the right instruments. This includes the introduction of affordable and easily accessible hepatitis B immunoglobulin, monovalent vaccine, and antivirals for the prevention of mother-to-child transmission of hepatitis B. Estimate from 2020 Ghana Health Service press release on World Hepatitis B Day showed that an average of 120,000 newborns will be hepatitis B virus by their mothers during delivery, and up to 90% of these newborns may end up being infected. Mr. Speaker, these newborns can affect the disease by receiving treatment with hepatitis B, HBIG, and vaccination, which is yet to be health service. The cost of the HBIG is quite expensive, averaging 1,000 Ghana cedis for the underprivileged women in rural areas, hence the increase of the disease to their newborns at birth. According to the WHO, the introduction of hepatitis B birth dose vaccination is key to the prevention of the childhood infections. Mr. Speaker, currently, most people, especially pregnant women in rural areas, lack access to routine testing during pregnancy. Most pregnant women and individuals testing positive evaluation for treatment to suppress the virus. Very few, if any, are able to access or afford such services due to its high cost and treatment, since it is not available on our NHIS. In the Efutu municipality, there is no access to hepatitis B viral load testing, which is a key diagnostic factor in management of the disease. Mr. Speaker, it is only the teaching hospitals that are well equipped to manage hepatitis B. Hence, affected people outside of these areas who are referred and are mostly poor, decline and seek alternative treatment leading to complications and death. As of liver cancer worldwide, viral hepatitis B elimination could greatly reduce the rate of liver cancer death if only we can find it and treat millions of people who are unaware they are living with the condition. Mr. Speaker, I conclude by saying that with the World Hepatitis B Day approaching somewhere in July, government should make testing, vaccination, and treatment accessible to the communities to save lives. This can be done through decentralization of the services, which will make implementation of the community-based hepatitis B effective. It is vital that the testing, diagnosis, vaccination, and treatment of hepatitis B should be enrolled onto the National Health Insurance Scheme. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, it is important for government to enroll hepatitis B on the National Health Insurance Scheme, just as it is done for those living with TB and HIV. So, Speaker, HIV patients get an antiretroviral drugs free of charge. Unfortunately, hepatitis B patients who also rely on this same medication have to buy. If we do this, it will reduce the morbidity and mortality in our country to the barest minimum, with a strong focus on the vulnerable groups within our rural areas. Mr. Speaker, I hereby also make a call on us as MPs, the corporate institutions, our chiefs, our opinion leaders, our religious leaders, and other stakeholders to actively engage in public education to create more awareness, which awareness will lead to voluntary testing, with those who test negative quickly taking the vaccine, which is very, very cheap and will not cost more than 100 Ghana cedis. Once they are able to vaccinate, which is 3 shots, they are safe from getting the infection. Mr. Speaker, again, I will urge government to intensify public education through radio, TV, and print media about the causes of hepatitis B, mode of transmission, to create more awareness. And finally, Mr. Speaker, government must intensify education on the hepatitis B virus so that those who often rely on traditional herbal treatment will desist from that, since this leads to escalation and often creates a situation where the liver gets damaged and they die quicker than expected. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, the honourable member for Korle Klote.
Thank you, Right Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I omitted an important matter. Mr. Speaker, the source document upon which the statement was anchored, I would want to table them for the records so that members would have the opportunity to read and make an input in their constituencies, since I've made a call on members to engage in public education. Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Very well. The table office will take note. Yes, honourable member for Klote Korle.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by the Deputy Majority Leader on hepatitis B in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the epidemiological data shared with us by the Deputy Speaker, I beg your pardon, by the Deputy Leader, is actually quite frightening. In a country of 30 million people, to have 3 to 4.6 million people who are hepatitis B positive is scary. If you break it down into a room of 30 people, that means 3 people in that room, based on the figures, are Hep B positive, and that's frightening. It changes the conversation with regards to even issues as almost distant as safe sex and the use of barrier contraception, which is not only to prevent pregnancy and HIV, but Hep B as well. Mr. Speaker, really important points raised by the maker of the statement, in that the fact that we have such a high number of persons who are Hep B positive in Ghana is a fact that we are not having enough awareness creation. And at a time like this, a collaboration between the National Commission on Civic Education and the Ghana Health Service, and perhaps the Ghana Education Service, would be of benefit, because we have a youthful population and a lot of the Hep B positive persons fall within the youth. And incidentally, HIV is also on the increase, and so you're having some of the cases where a lot of people who are Hep B positive are also HIV positive. Mr. Speaker, affordable treatment is key. Cuba, for example, uses the interferon alpha as a means of treatment for the Hep B virus. This is very effective, but it's also extremely expensive, and therefore the affordability of treatment is important, given the fact that we don't want to have a situation where access to good health care or to proper treatment and management of the disease are limited only to people within a particular socioeconomic bracket. Mr. Speaker, another incidental finding so far has been that a lot of persons who have been found to be Hep B positive are from the northern part of Ghana, and a lot of research must be done to find out the reasons why, in order to be able to target screening and treatment of Hep B in those who have been found positive in various populations. And then finally, Mr. Speaker, with regards to policy on what we are doing about hepatitis B in Ghana. First of all, we must look at a free national health screening program which targets populations that are found to be high risk, but make it available and free and easily accessible to all persons. And based on the data found regarding the screening and the distribution of the disease, then we can also have a local program targeting the high-risk groups in order to ensure that people can actually be protected in anticipation of the kind of infections and the rates at which people are getting infected. So based on the data, we can then come up with a determination on whether vaccinations should be targeted at people in secondary school or after they finish secondary school, or whether we are looking at specific age groups that will be targeted with regards to vaccinations. And then, of course, finally, Mr. Speaker, for the Hep B treatment, the immunoglobulin to be put on the NHIS card to make sure that persons who are affected can avail of the treatment. This is so important, Mr. Speaker. The statistics are staggering, are frightening, and this is a matter that must be taken with absolute emergency and urgency for a country that is seeking to provide good health care and access to all its citizens. Mr. Speaker, I would like to reiterate and add my voice to the appeal by the Deputy Majority Speaker that the immunoglobulin used in the treatment for hepatitis B be put on the NHIS card, and a free and accessible vaccination program be put in place in order to protect those in the population who are Hep B negative at the moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by the Deputy Majority Leader on this very important topic on hepatitis B. Mr. Speaker, hepatitis B is a vaccine-preventable virus infection of the liver, and it is one of those infections that is of serious public health concern worldwide, because it is a disease that leads to mortality and serious morbidity with complications. Mr. Speaker, about 90% of infants
if infected with hepatitis B, will lead to chronic infection that can lead to liver cancer, cirrhosis, and finally death. However, for the adults, about 2 to 6% of adults who get infected will lead to chronic infection. Mr. Speaker, because it is a disease of public health importance, I know the Ministry of Health has taken it as one of the conditions or the diseases that they have to work on, and therefore hepatitis B vaccination is part of our EPI, expanded program on immunization. The Ministry of Health runs. So all our children born today receive hepatitis B vaccination as part of the immunization program. So any individual, I would say, less than 20 years old might have gone through hepatitis B vaccination as part of this EPI program. And therefore, what we need to advocate and to work on is to strengthen our EPI in the country, ensure that it is well funded, ensure that the vaccines are available, the logistics are there, so that all children born are given, hepatitis B. If that is done, as a country, we'll go a long way to preventing so many children, so many people from getting hepatitis B infection. The challenge is those of us adults, who probably from 2030 going, who didn't have the opportunity to be vaccinated when we were born as children. We will have to take precautions to prevent getting infected. And just like we give education for HIV, it is similar education we have to give to prevent hepatitis B, because the mode of transmission is just like HIV virus. So having protected sex is very important, ensuring that we have safe blood transfusion and ensuring that we don't share shafts like needles or blades are all things that we can do to protect it, with hepatitis B. And as the saying goes, it's always cheaper for prevention than treatment. Preventing getting infected with hepatitis B is cheaper than when you get infected and you have to buy, medications to treat yourself. And I want to stress that there are some health professionals or health people who take advantage and prescribe all sorts of new drugs that have not been fully recommended by the WHO, and because of fear of chronic infections from hepatitis B, there are individuals who sometimes have to pay a lot to access certain unproven medications. So let's continue to educate the public to ensure that our children are vaccinated. Those of us who are adults take the precautionary measures very importantly, so that as a country we will reduce the burden of hepatitis B infection. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity, and I commend the maker of the statement for this important statement. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement made by my senior colleague. I'm most grateful for the opportunity. Looking at the statistics that he presented, it clearly shows us that hepatitis B is becoming more dangerous in our system than even the almighty HIV that we have. What makes it even more dangerous is the fact that a person can become a carrier even after treatment, and that we need to look at the precautionary measures to be able to fight this new kind of virus that want to trouble our society. I would suggest that every pregnant woman that visits the health center should be screened for us to be able to curtail the fact that a mother can be transmit the disease to the child, like we did in all HIV cases in our hospitals. Then two, our young people in the senior high schools and the junior high schools, I will call on government to put a measure in place that we can screen all of them as they go to the secondary school or the senior high schools. Because as we all know, they are our future leaders and they are the people who are coming to replace us as we grow older. Another point that I want us to look at in the area of prevention is the screening of each and every person that is in this country. If it is possible that you can just walk into any health care center to ask for screening of your hepatitis B status so that you know your status and you'll be able to prevent yourself from being reinfected, or if it is possible that when you screen, you take care of yourself, that you will not even infect other people in society. The maker of the statement called on government to make sure that they add it to the Ghana Health Services and our health insurance card. I think that call should be looked at very carefully so that we continue to stop people from reinfecting other people or reinfecting themselves. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the statement. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, there's a statement on. Yes, Honourable Minister, you want to speak on that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I first want to thank the maker of the statement and my colleagues who have actually contributed to the statement. Through this way, the hepatitis B syndrome is coming to be known in our country. I mean, the statement is creating awareness of the type of situation that we have in the system. Mr. Speaker, I don't intend to refute any portion of the statement and what the contributions my colleagues have made, but I just to add a few more. Mr. Speaker, we have actually included hepatitis B vaccination in our normal routine immunization program. But unfortunately, we are now planning to scale up to actually include the at-birth dose as a way of preventing hepatitis B. Mr. Speaker, it is true we don't have it on health insurance benefits package, both testing and vaccination, because of the cost implications and some other reasons. But the disease is coming up so much more that we need to do a lot to do what it is that we should do. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, our research indicates that hepatitis B is more prevalent in the northern zone of our country than the southern zone. And the Kumasi KCCR is actually some good research to try to find the causative factors that is making the situation that much, so that we can begin to find ways of trying to get them out. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that government is not paying for testing, we have made it mandatory for students going to school, food vendors, people who are engaging with the public that we can identify to actually get vaccinated, tested before they get to college. We are keeping data of those who test positive for hepatitis B, Mr. Speaker, so that we can track their progress and see how best we can support them to manage the disease that they have got. From scientific research, we have been told that hepatitis B has no known cure, and therefore, if you contract it, you have a challenge. So we have to manage you like we're managing other chronic diseases that have no cure. The only prevention measure is the vaccination, and therefore we need to scale up testing. We now started a program that mandates even pregnant women to test, for screening to test, such that children that they are going to come out with wouldn't get infected. So the ministry is actually scaling up our activities in trying to prevent hepatitis B in Ghanaian society. And I believe that my colleagues will continue to support us if we should come looking for resources to help us do what we need to do on hepatitis B. But the creation of awareness is very, very necessary, such that we all can prevent ourselves from catching hepatitis B. Mr. Speaker, the only good assurance is such that we are getting collaboration with some friendly countries to see how best we can get medication for hepatitis C, rather, that apparently has some medication to cure that. That also is not very, very prevalent in our country, but now it is coming up. Right, we need to start doing some work on that as well. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I think I will thank the Speaker and then the Maker and my colleagues as I end my little contribution on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honourable members, I'll move on to the next statement. It is in the name of the Honourable Member for Finso South, Isaac Yapoku, on the National Chocolate Day. Honourable Yapoku, you may read your statement now. Honourable Yapoku is not in the chamber. Very well. Is Honourable Afemapo ready to read your statement now? Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, tons of gratitude for the opportunity to make this very important statement regarding the celebration of the World Radio Day, Mr. Speaker, which fell yesterday. Mr. Speaker, some 126 years ago, in 1897, the first radio broadcast was made by an Italian named Guglielmo Marconi. Mr. Speaker, in an invention that was to change the world's view of communication. Mr. Speaker, since its invention and popularity over the years, radio has remained an important and relevant companion to humanity even today. Mr. Speaker, on 13th May 2022, the BBC gave a historic account of how radio communication was founded. Mr. Speaker, the BBC journalist Jonathan Holmes detailed, for instance, how Marconi came to a place in London called Weston-super-Mare to experiment with what we call telegraphy without wires. Mr. Speaker, that has since come to be known as radio. He was initially interested in contacting ships, but his work led to a communications revolution. Mr. Speaker, the publication of Holmes on the BBC website contained accounts which indicated that in 1896, Marconi came to the UK to conduct his experiment after trying and failing to get interest from officials in Italy. Mr. Speaker, his assistant, one George Kemp, who was a Cardiff citizen at the time, suggested that the Bristol Channel would be the perfect place to test out his invention. Mr. Speaker, on 11th and 12th of May in 1896, the experiment was carried out to transmit on a flat home, an island halfway across the channel. Mr. Speaker, he began sending messages out into the airwaves. But unfortunately, this initial experiment failed. Mr. Speaker, until 1896, the experiment, however, succeeded with significant progress. Mr. Speaker, the instrument was rung out, and he sent out this initial phrase, "Can you hear me?" Mr. Speaker, this message was immediately received. Mr. Speaker, the historic account has it that Braindown Fort, which was just south of Western Supermare, became the stage where he set up its base. Mr. Speaker, they went out to send messages about 10 miles further down, which at the time became a record of transmission via a wireless apparatus. Mr. Speaker, after this initial humbling success, Macaulay went on to establish what became the Wireless Telegraph and Signal Company some 6 months later. And in 1922, Mr. Speaker, this company became one of the 6 founders of what has since become known as the British Broadcasting Corporation in 1922. Mr. Speaker, each year, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that's UNESCO, celebrates World Radio Day by planning activities with broadcasters, organizations and communities across the world. Mr. Speaker, the first official World Radio Day was celebrated in the year 2012. Mr. Speaker, this year, the theme adopted for the celebration is Radio and Peace. Mr. Speaker, despite being more than a radio remains one of the most widely used platforms for social interaction, information exchange, and education. It has been used to assist people, notably youth, in having conversations about issues that concern them. It provides journalists with a forum to report the truth and share their stories. And it has also helped to save lives during natural and man-made disasters. Mr. Speaker, radio technology has evolved since its inception, and today we have the luxury of streaming via internet radio. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, radio broadcasts are carried through other new media channels in order to reach the technologically advanced population of the world. In Ghana, Mr. Speaker, according to historical accounts, radio emerged onto the scenes on 31st July 1935. Mr. Speaker, this was introduced by Governor Hudson at the time. It was affectionately called the Sunshine Governor. Mr. Speaker, he was assisted by a British engineer, one Mr. F.A.W. Byron. On that 42nd day, Mr. Speaker, at 17 hours GMT, a gramophone records comprising of martial and live music were relayed. And exactly at 17:45 GMT, Mr. Speaker, the voice of Arnold Hudson, the then governor, came over the airwaves. And that then began the transmission of radio in Ghana, or in the Gold Coast, now Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the new broadcasting service was codenamed Radio Zoe, as in Zebra Oscar Yankee, and it was manned by 8 technicians and a small bungalow on the 9th road near the Ridge Police Station here in Accra. Mr. Speaker, over the years, radio technologies has provided commercial opportunities to corporate organizations and individuals to invest in broadcasting for the financial gains that it offers. And Mr. Speaker, Ghana has had its fair share of the business the nature of radio has brought. Mr. Speaker, the data from the National Communications Authority indicates that at the third quarter of 2019, Mr. Speaker, there were as many as 477 radio stations authorized to operate in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this number is made up of 31 public radio stations, 5 public foreign radio stations, 73 community radio stations, 21 campus radio stations, and 347 commercial radio stations in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, whilst acknowledging the important role of radio on this important day, which fell yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I want to deliberately make a call, and that is to the effect that we need to encourage the establishment of a lot of community radio establishments in our communities. Mr. Speaker, particularly because I'm mindful of the theme that has been chosen for this year, which is radio and peace. Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that the recognition of the ability of radio to fuel conflict and the ability of professional independent radio to instruct talks to bring peace is very paramount. Mr. Speaker, oftentimes, as members of parliament who hail from rural communities, we rely on radio to disseminate information and to educate our constituents on happenings in metropolitan Accra. Mr. Speaker, the tedious nature of this communication makes it very difficult to use other means other than radio. And sometimes the difficulties that the networks go through to receive news in some of these remote areas makes radio very portable for our fishermen and farmers in the remote areas and in the rural areas to rely on radio to keep them updated. Mr. Speaker, even though community radio stations have unique setups, which are expected to be owned and run by specific communities, they require to be authorized by the National Communications Authority. Mr. Speaker, the data from NCA, again from the third quarter of 2019, show that out of the 73 rural radio, community radio stations that have been authorized to operate, Mr. Speaker, only 59 are operating. Mr. Speaker, the number of radio stations that are community radio stations that are permitted to operate vis-a-vis population show clearly that there is a deficit in establishing community radio which offers an easy access to reaching out to our various communities in the rural areas. Mr. Speaker, due to the portability of radio and its accoutrements, Mr. Speaker, we have all had experiences where at one time or the other we have had to rely on radio in our farms. Mr. Speaker, in order to fortify my point in calling for a more number of community radio establishments, I will make reference to 2 academic publications by 2 young men in our universities. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, Kankam and Atu published an academic publication in the journal called Global Knowledge, Memory, Communication under the topic, The Role of Community Radio in Information Dissemination Towards Youth Development in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this paper established or found that community radio in Ghana had provided opportunity for youth engagement and entertainment, provided opportunity for education, as well as health awareness. And it has also been used to advocate for infrastructure, business, and skills development, as well as provided opportunity for career and life coaching. Mr. Speaker, the research further established that radio stations do focus on empowering community participation in numerous development programs and thereby enhancing the capacities of the local people to work together to tackle a range of social inequalities such as discrimination, marginalization. Mr. Speaker, the second academic piece from these two academicians was also published in 2022 and published by Rutledge Taylor and Francis Group. And it was titled, Mr. Speaker, it was titled Community Radio as Information Dissemination Tool for Sustainable Rural Development in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this second article found that community radio stations have provided opportunity for members involved in various stages of radio broadcasting in Ghana by using radios to tackle specific community needs and provide a platform for empowerment of community members. And most importantly, part of their findings indicated that community members were allowed to participate in development planning, which is key in sustainable development through the use of community radio. Mr. Speaker, prior to their studies, I have established that other research works by one Mohammed Faisal Ahmadu and Amin Al-Hassan in 2018 indicated that as far back as 2011, radios, community radios such as Radio Gaki and in the Saboba districts, as well as Sibling Radio, have significantly improved on the information sharing abilities as well as the livelihoods of the listeners within their catchment area. Mr. Speaker, it is based on the above that I want to urge the House to appreciate this of the influence that community radio have in our various constituencies and districts and encourage the NCA to pay attention in licensing individuals and persons to establish community radio, which, Mr. Speaker, by so doing, will help policy implementation and also bring about community improvement through information dissemination. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Very well. That brings us to the end of statements time for today. Honorable Deputy Leader. Can I bring proceedings to a close now? Sorry?
Mr. Speaker, with respect, today is Chocolate Day. And our colleague, Dr. Iwai Opoku,
You gave him the opportunity. He was not in the chamber. I didn't know that he has come.
Mr. Speaker, he is in.
He is back?
Yes, he's back.
Very well.
He's well seated and ready.
Honorable Member for Finsu South. Yes, you may read your statement on Chocolate Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to present a statement on...
Honorable Member Holder. Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, some colleagues wanted to contribute to the statement made by Honorable Dafameko. And Honorable wanted to make a comment, and Honorable Agaga.
No due difference to you, Leader. When the statement was read, I waited for about 2 minutes, looking left and right to see anybody wanting to. Before I announced, I was actually going to bring proceedings to a close when Leader drew my attention that the book was now in. I'm sorry, I've moved on already. I was looking for somebody to speak. There was nobody on his feet. Well, I've moved on already. Let's move on to this one. I'm sorry about that. Yes, you may continue.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to present a statement on the celebration of this year's National Chocolate Day to this August House. Mr. Speaker, on the occasion of the 2023 National Chocolate Day celebration, which falls today, 14th February, we wish to salute our gallant cocoa farmers and indeed all stakeholders, licensed buying companies, hauliers, agro-input dealers, processors, traders, cocoa value chain actors, policy makers, government officials, non-governmental organizations, foreign partners, and customers of cocoa who have contributed in diverse ways towards the sustenance of the cocoa industry. Mr. Speaker, the celebration will also not be complete if the celebrants are not reminded about the father of cocoa in Ghana, Tete Kwashe of blessed memory, who in 1879 brought cocoa beans from Fernando Po, now Equatorial Guinea, to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the theme for this year's celebration is Eat Chocolate, Stay Healthy, and Grow Ghana. The concentration, however, is on how to provide the platform for artisanal cocoa makers in order to help create employment for our youth and create value along the chain. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, Ghana Cocoa Board must be commended for their effort in ensuring that the national targets of locally processing at least 50% of our annual production and increasing our per capita consumption from the current 0.5 kilograms to at least 1 kilogram are achieved. The Speaker, Cocoa Board is engaging relevant stake agencies to provide conducive working environment for artisanal chocolate manufacturers. Cocoa Board is also engaging a Belgian company to set up a chocolate academy to train and upgrade the technical skills of our artisanal chocolate makers. Mr. Speaker, cocoa is the backbone of the economy of this country, and therefore every Ghanaian is duty-bound to ensure the growth and sustainability of the industry. To ensure the success of the National Chocolate Day celebration, we encourage every Ghanaian, especially members of parliament, to actively participate and support the celebration and cocoa consumption promotion campaigns. As members of parliament, we can set the ball rolling by consuming at least a bar of chocolate every day, by serving cocoa drinks at all committee and caucus meetings, by using cocoa products as gifts of choice during Chocolate Week celebration and other special occasions, and by propagating the good news about the numerous health benefits of cocoa at any given opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the overwhelming health benefits of cocoa and cocoa products are well documented. Cocoa consumption can relieve stress, it reduces high blood pressure, it reduces risk of diabetes, it improves brain health, it helps with skin care, and prevents cancer. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to know that even cocoa roots from unproductive trees, which under normal circumstances would have been discarded along the value chain, have been used to develop bitters using alcohol from cocoa pulp juice. Quality assessments of the bitters have shown that cocoa roots contain significant amount of useful chemicals with medicinal properties, including anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and aphrodisiac properties. Currently, the bitters are being produced on pilot scale and sold to consumers at the byproduct shop at Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, TAFO, and response from consumers have been very encouraging. As we celebrate the Cocoa Day, Mr. Speaker, we must also not lose sight of the factors which militate against cocoa production. Mr. Speaker, in 2020-2021 cocoa season, cocoa production stood at 1,045,500 metric tons, the highest production ever in the country's history. Surprisingly, however, 1 year on, production has dropped from over 1 million tons to 683,268.9 metric tons in 2021-2022 season, representing 34.6% decline, the lowest production since 2009-2010. Mr. Speaker, several factors may account for the sharp decline, but principal amongst them is the effect of illegal mining, popularly referred to as galamsey. Mr. Speaker, if the rate of destruction of cocoa farms as a result of galamsey activities is allowed to continue, in no time, our enviable position as the second largest producer of quality premium cocoa in the world will be lost, and there will be very little to celebrate in future. Mr. Speaker, to ensure the availability of adequate quality cocoa beans for local processing and export, farmers must be encouraged to adopt the productivity enhancement programs introduced by Cocoa Board in 2017. The soil moisture stress in cocoa farms as a result of climate change must also be addressed. Ghana Cocoa Board must endeavor to extend the pilot irrigation program started in 2017 to cover many more medium and large-scale farmers. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, the research wing of Cocoa Board, must also intensify ongoing research in the development of drought-resistant or tolerant cocoa varieties that suit marginal cocoa growing areas of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, to motivate farmers to stick to cocoa farming, stop ceding their cocoa farms to other competing land uses, particularly illegal mining and rubber cultivation, Cocoa Farmers Pension Scheme, which was piloted in the Western South and Ashanti region, must also be extended to cover all cocoa growing regions as soon as practicable. This will also help our cherished cocoa farmers to enjoy decent and sustainable pension when they retire from active cocoa farming. Let us support sustainable production of cocoa and local processing of cocoa beans. Let us patronize made-in-Ghana chocolate and cocoa products. Mr. Speaker, let us say no to the destruction of cocoa farms for galamsey activities. Let us say no to the pollution of our water bodies, which serve as sources of water for irrigation and for sources of water for pest control and for irrigation of cocoa farms. Let us say no to unapproved pesticides and fertilizers on cocoa. Let us say no to smuggling of cocoa beans across the borders and also smuggling of pesticides and fertilizer meant for cocoa farmers in Ghana. Long live our cherished cocoa farmers. Long live the Tekwashi's memories. Long live National Chocolate Day. Long live Mother Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Ranking Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by our colleague on the National Cocoa Day, the National Chocolate Day. Mr. Speaker, the theme for the celebration, Eat Chocolate, Stay Healthy, and Grow Ghana, is very, very important. Indeed, when Ghanaians eat chocolate, we are consuming what is produced in our country, and the benefits are enormous. We have benefits in respect of health, and then numerous economic benefits. But, Mr. Speaker, it is important for all of us to understand that consumption of chocolate will only lead to growth in our country if the cocoa that is used in the production of the chocolate is produced in Ghana here. The maker of the statement indicated that cocoa production peaked in 2021 at 1,045,000 metric tons. Unfortunately, in 2021-22 cocoa season, the figure dropped to 683,000, 36.4% decline. Mr. Speaker, in that year, Ghana collateralized 640,000 out of the 683 for the syndicated facility for the operations of cocoa in our country, leaving Ghana 43,000 tons of cocoa. Mr. Speaker, under the BUI agreement, we service the facility with 30,000 tons annually. And so when you take the 30,000 out, Ghana is left with just 13,000 tons for our local processors. The capacity of our local processors is around 400,000 tons, meaning that these companies can only survive if they import cocoa from Cote d'Ivoire and other cocoa producing countries before they can produce chocolate for us in this country. So even though we may be consuming chocolate, the full benefits will not be seen in our country because the major raw material is imported from outside. It is therefore important for all of us to look at how we can improve significantly upon cocoa production in our country. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement also spoke about one of the interventions being rolled out by government to boost cocoa production, to motivate our farmers and indeed the young generation to stay into cocoa production. And that was the Cocoa Farmers Pension Scheme. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the Cocoa Board law provides for the establishment of this scheme, specifically under Section 26 of the Cocoa Board Act. Well, Mr. Speaker, Section 26(3) of the Act provides that there should be a legislative instrument to provide regulations for the pension scheme. Mr. Speaker, as you speak, the scheme has been announced. Board of Trustees has been inaugurated. Mr. Speaker, the board was inaugurated. I attended the inauguration myself. But the legislative instrument to regulate the scheme has not been passed by this House. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are urging on Cocoa Board and indeed the Ministry of Agriculture to bring the legislative instruments to enable us fully operationalize the scheme to enable cocoa farmers benefit fully from that particular scheme. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement indicated that this pension scheme has been piloted in 2 regions. Mr. Speaker, what happened in those 2 regions was the capturing of the data as this House approved the cocoa rehabilitation project, and allocation was made in that for the capturing of the data. Mr. Speaker, another important point made by the maker of the statement has to do with the reason he assigned for the decline of cocoa production in this country, which is very, very important. The maker of the statement is saying that cocoa production is declining principally because of illegal mining, that farmers are ceding their farms to these illegal miners to destroy them for this, the activities, the so-called galamsey. Mr. Speaker, my problem with this canker of illegal mining is this. The 1992 Constitution is clear on who it should be in charge of minerals in this country. Specifically, Article 257, Clause 6, provides that minerals within the boundaries of Ghana are vested in the President. for the president to protect for the upcoming generation. If people are illegally harnessing these resources to the extent of destroying other resources of this nation, Mr. Speaker, then there is something wrong. And so there is the need for all of us to urge His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana to leave no stone unturned, because that is his mandate. It is a power given to him by the Constitution of Ghana. If he sits aloof, unconcerned, for these resources to be destroyed during his time, history will never forgive Mr. President. So we are urging His Excellency the President that this is a mandate bestowed on him by the Constitution of this country. And we, the representative of the people here, we are urging him to leave no stone unturned.
Honorable, did you say members of representative here?
Yeah.
They should be spoken to. The members here. A lot of them are involved in the illegal mining.
Mr. Speaker, you are the Mr. Speaker. So you know more than I know is in respect of those who are involved.
To know in your constituency
But
those who are
since I
involved.
don't know, what I will do is that I'm speaking to what the law says, that Mr. President should be in charge. And once he's in charge, he should make sure that he owes us a responsibility to protect these resources, not for us alone, for Napo and his people to enjoy, and our children too must come and inherit same. That is the element I'm advancing. And so, Mr. Speaker, today is a good day. Chocolate is for the benefit of all of us. And we all know that cocoa plays a very critical role in the economy of our country. And so when we are celebrating the day, we must also be concerned about the very people who produce this gold import for us. Mr. Speaker, another point that must be considered is the cocoa pricing in the country. It is so important that can motivate our farmers to produce a lot of cocoa for us in this country. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, in the determination of the producer price of cocoa, we do not consider inflation. And this is not just for this year. It is something that has been done over the years. And so when the prices of goods and services go up, and these farmers are on the same income, their real income falls significantly, and they are unable to cope with the environment. Therefore, most of them are deterred, they are discouraged from staying in our rural communities to produce the cocoa for us. Mr. Speaker, consumption of chocolate is important. It will benefit all of us. As members of parliament, as the maker of the statement said, that we should be drinking cocoa, we should be buying, we should be eating cocoa every day. But Mr. Speaker, even on this special day, last year when we were celebrating the same day, when I was entering the chamber, I saw cocoa drinks all over for members to have a taste of what was happening. So when I was coming this morning, I called the chairman of our committee that today is the chocolate day. What arrangement have we made towards the celebration? At least to let members who have for 1 year, who have not tasted chocolate anywhere for 1 year, to have a taste of it. So that when they go out there, they can testify to the people that there is the need for all of us to consume this. Mr. Speaker, I was told that the maker of the statement, after making the statement today, will have to make some disclosures in respect of chocolate in his custody, so that members will have a better appreciation of the statement he made. And Mr. Speaker, after making the statement, the maker did not disclose anything in his custody in respect of the World Chocolate Day. If there is something he hasn't said, let us understand, because today is a special day. My constituents are asking me for chocolate. They want to have chocolate, especially when this house approved a facility for us to buy chocolate for school children. And the school children are not getting the chocolate. Members must be concerned, because when you go to the constituencies, the children are asking you, where are the chocolates you said you were going to buy for us? Mr. Speaker, in that facility, we approved $5 million for the purchase of chocolate for school children in this country. Mr. Speaker, the money has been assessed, it has been taken by Cocoa Board, but we have not seen the chocolate in our schools. So we have to use the day to remind them that having approved for them $5 million for the purchase of chocolate, the chocolate might be sent to the school children wherever they are, so that our children can also have the taste and then be consuming chocolate when they grow up and they make their own incomes. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and urge the House and urge Mr. Speaker to prevail upon Cocoa, having presided over the approval of that quantum of money for the purchase of chocolate, that the money be utilized to purchase chocolate and distributed to our school children, so that they will know that their representative here, when they approve monies, they follow up to ensure that monies approved are used in the best interest of the people of this country. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my colleague. Mr. Speaker, the sentiments expressed by my colleagues in this House in respect of the World Chocolate Day and the need for us to patronize made in Ghana chocolate, its impact on our national economy, and, Mr. Speaker, the collective efforts to indigenize our national economy, Mr. Speaker, are all very welcoming, and I associate myself with those sentiments. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I believe that it is trite knowledge when I make the point that there is a direct correlation between mining generally, the small-scale mining sector in particular, and, Mr. Speaker, if I may add, the extractive industry on cocoa production and the cocoa industry. Mr. Speaker, I also want to associate myself, and I agree with my colleague from the other side, that the President has a duty, a constitutional duty, a legal duty to preserve and protect the environment of our country. But, Mr. Speaker, in all humility and modesty, as the minister charged with the responsibility of assisting the President to regulate the mining sector of our country, Mr. Speaker, I want to submit and do so very forcefully that the President is doing just that. Mr. Speaker, I have had multiple occasions to update this House on the effort being made by government to come to grips with the issue of illegal mining in our country. And, Mr. Speaker, I am happy to report to the House today that data from the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation indicates that the turbidity levels of the major river bodies of our country are improving. And it suggests that the many interventions government is put in place to resolve the issue of illegal small-scale mining, Mr. Speaker, including but not limited to the interventions of community mining, the interventions of
Honourable
introducing...
Minister, kindly hold on. Yes, Honourable Pudo, are you on a point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I want to draw the attention of my colleague to the fact that today is not World Chocolate Day. World Chocolate Day.
Who's attention? Who made that?
That was what he said.
Who said that? The Honourable Minister.
He said today is World Chocolate Day, but that's not so.
Very well.
It is July 7th. July 7th. Today is Valentine's Day, and we have decided to call it Ghana Chocolate Day. So World Chocolate Day falls on July the 7th, 2023.
The statement before me says National Chocolate Day. So, is it the minister on his field who said World Chocolate Day?
But he said world.
Very well. Point well noted. Honourable Minister, make the correction.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the senior colleague for his correction. Mr. Speaker, who is elegantly attired in his kente. I thank him. So, National Chocolate Day. Mr. Speaker, I was on a subject of illegal small-scale mining. Mr. Speaker, and I speak to that matter because The maker of the statement speaks about it extensively, and contributors to the statement have also dwelt on the issue of illegal small-scale mining and its impact on the cocoa industry, and rightly so, Mr. Speaker. And I was making the point that the many interventions that have been rolled out by government have resulted in the reduction in the turbidity levels of the major river bodies of our country. And Mr. Speaker, we know the history of the small-scale mining sector and how we promulgated laws in the 80s to regularize and make that sector lawful and make an attempt to build a small-scale mining industry in our country, and the problems we've had over the years. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by assuring the House that government is taking all necessary measures and will continue to do so to ensure that we sanitize this sector, Mr. Speaker, we regularize this sector, we come to grips with the small-scale mining sector, and therefore get to a situation where we will have a vibrant, responsible mining sector in our country, running concurrently with a robust cocoa industry in our country, where farmers do not sell their cocoa farms for miners and therefore result in a lack of productivity in the cocoa industry. Mr. Speaker, you made a point of an orbiter, you made a point on the side which I want to dwell on before I conclude, which is that, Mr. Speaker, this fight must be a collective fight. This fight must be a fight for all sides. It must be a fight for this side of the House and the other side of the House, Mr. Speaker. It must be a fight for all the stakeholders in our country. And indeed, it must be a fight for the citizens or indigents of mining communities of our country. And Mr. Speaker, the House be rest assured that the President is very mindful of his legal and constitutional obligations. Mr. Speaker, and the President is discharging these obligations diligently and effectively. And by the grace of God, Mr. Speaker, under the watch of President Akufo-Addo, we will resolve this age-old problem of illegal small-scale mining in Galamsey and have our cocoa sector thrive and have chocolate flourish in our country. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, member for us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement reflecting our celebration of the National Chocolate Day, which we have instituted in this country since 2005 to coincide with the Valentine's Day, which used to be a day young people would use to violate some of the fundamental ethical rules in this country. Mr. Speaker, this day has become so important because it touches on the very nerve of this country. We have been dependent so much on the production and sale of cocoa in this country for a considerable long time and has become the foundation of our economy. And Mr. Speaker, whatever we must do to make sure cocoa consumption becomes a part of the life of the Ghanaian, we just have to do it. And so instituting this day is critical and it touches on the nerve of our economy, and I'll encourage all young people to begin to see this day as their own contribution to make sure cocoa consumption is a part of our household in everyday life, not just for the day of the Chocolate Day celebration. The Speaker, in 1962, 5 countries, including Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Brazil, decided to come together to form the Alliance of Cocoa-Producing Countries. The major idea was to produce in these countries to export to others, or in other words, to create market outside the country so others can consume, not necessarily to promote consumption in our own countries. With time, the number of countries grew up to 13 countries, Mr. Speaker, but still with the foundation, the fundamental rule, up to 1991, that we wanted to produce cocoa and sell outside. Until 2005, when we decided that producing and selling outside should not necessarily be the foundation of our reason for producing cocoa in this country. we decided that we will promote the consumption of cocoa in this country. Mr. Speaker, this decision is critical, and it's important for all of us to begin thinking about consumption of cocoa beyond the fact that we celebrate the day in this country. Mr. Speaker, that calls for new initiatives, not just a single day, but new initiatives that will afford us the ability to promote cocoa consumption and sale of cocoa within and outside the country. Mr. Speaker, a few months ago, a number of us, including the two leaders, I joined them. We went to Brazil to meet the European Parliament. One of their critical reasons for attempting to not buy from Ghana cocoa, to buy from Ghana our cocoa, were two reasons. One, the fact that we were using child labor, and the second was that we were destroying our cocoa with illegal mining effects, so that in the end, the quality of the cocoa will not be the kind of cocoa they wanted, or the kind of fruits they wanted to buy from Ghana. This because it took us a very long discussion and a lot of persuasion to get the European Union to agree to buy from Ghana and not to place sanctions on the sale or on the purchase of cocoa from Ghana. Mr. Speaker, it tells us one story, that we don't seem to understand that cocoa is very fundamental to our economy, and that we are yet to discover the need for us to materialize the conception of consumption of cocoa in our overall development process. Mr. Speaker, on this day, which is a very important day for all of us, I want to wish our cocoa producers the very best. They are the reason why we have Ghana producing cocoa in the quantity we produce. They are the reason why we have benefited so much, including scholarships for people to go and study. And it's important that we celebrate the cocoa producers in this country and wish them well, and encourage governments all over, not just this government, to do much more than we are doing to our cocoa farmers, because it is important for us to encourage them and to get them to produce more. As they produce more, Ghana earns more, and as we earn more, we have a stronger economy. So, Mr. Speaker, rather than seeing it as a day we go about celebrating and greeting friends and buying cocoa, let us also see it as one fundamental reason to make our economy, the Ghanaian economy, go better than we have it today. And I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Yes, Honorable Efijase.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the honor that me to speak to the statement. Mr. Speaker, I'm a representative of the Efijase Sokore in the Ashanti region. However, paternally, I hail also from Mampong Equiapim in the Eastern region. Mr. Speaker, I'm only drawing historical perspectives to chocolate and cocoa. And for that matter, why the tourist or the tourism industry could take advantage to shore up revenue, knowing where cocoa farming came from, and why we must take the town Mampong Equiapim seriously when we talk about cocoa. Mr. Speaker, the export of 12 cocoa in the colonial era by Nana John Kweku Eyu of Mampong Equiapim, who then was the person that brought together people to form the Cocoa Farmers Union. At that time, there was no cocoa board. And I repeat the name. Nana John Kweku Eyu, not Ayu, Eyu of Mampong Equiapim. Mr. Speaker, historically, Nana John Kweku Eyu, after Tete Kwashi, who had attempted to sow cocoa in Osu, however failed, decided to relocate to Mampong Equiapim. He did the first farming, and to industrialize it, Nana John Kweku Eyu had to bring cocoa farmers together. He exported 12 cocoa to England. Then
because there was no cocoa board. It was then that the colonial masters saw the need that cocoa has significant interest in business of Europe. And for that matter, Mampo Ekuapem became a center of cocoa production, which was pioneered by Tete Kwashi and industrialized by Nana John Kweku Eyu. Mr. Speaker, as I speak, Mampo Ekuapem has been abandoned. A day like this, you would expect the cocoa board to make historical activities to bring Ghana and attention to cocoa in Mampo. Mr. Speaker, this is not done. So I join in this debate to draw the attention of the public and for that matter, cocoa board. Not only for us to debate and let this day die off, but to make it significant historical activity in Mampo Ekuapem. Mr. Speaker, having said so, they attempted to put a museum in Mampo Ekuapem by Ministry of Tourism or Tourist Authority and Cocoa Board. As I speak now, the museum has not been completed. It's more so about being abandoned, but the intention was very good. Take this day as a solemn day, reflect upon it, and see the need to complete the museum in Mampo Ekuapem. More so, you look at the farm that historically is for students to learn from with regards to Tete Kwashi's farm. The roads to that place is so terrible, extremely terrible, and you would expect that with cocoa board and cocoa roads, they will see the need to construct that road and attract tourists and keep the history. Mr. Speaker, I've only brought these historical perspectives to bear to the debate, saying that Tete Kwashi must be healed, and cocoa was industrialized by Nana John Kweku Eyu. He's the one who formed the Cocoa Farmers Union in the Gold Coast. At that time of which there was no cocoa board, he led the export of cocoa 12 times to England. And at the time, he also told farmers that they are not going to sell cocoa again in the country to the colonial authorities until the shoot disease and others are taken care of. And then they saw that cocoa had a significant impact. So we celebrate this day by remembering Tete Kwashi, Nana John Kweku Eyu, and Mampo Ekuapem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have taught you this.
Very well. Thank you, honourable members. That brings us to the end of statement time today. We will now return to public business, but I'll suspend sitting for 5 minutes and I'll resume. Sitting is suspended for 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker. Yes, Honorable Leader. What next? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, item 8A.
Item 8A, presentation of papers. First reading of bills. A. Wildlife Resources Management Bill 2022 by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Item 8A.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to seek leave to withdraw the Wildlife Resources Management Bill 2020, which was laid in the last meeting of this Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Minority Bench. The Honourable Minister is seeking leave to withdraw a bill laid in the last meeting. Do you have any objection to that?
Mr. Speaker, we don't have any objection to that.
Very well. Leave is granted for the bill previously laid to be withdrawn, and the referral to the committee is also hereby annulled. Now you may. Presentation of the first reading. Yes, Honourable Minister.
An act to consolidate and revise the laws relating to wildlife and protected areas, provide for the implementation of international conventions on wildlife to which Ghana is a signatory and for related matters.
The bill is read the first time and referred to the Committee on Lands and Forestry for consideration and report. Yes, what next?
Mr. Speaker, item 24 on page 16. Item 24 on page 16.
Item 24. Is the bill ready now? The last Friday, we deferred consideration because the bill was not available. Is the bill available now before I call it?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Item 24, the National Vaccine Institute Bill 2022 at the consideration stage. Very well. There are no advertised amendments in respect of clauses 1 to 15. clauses 1 to 15. You may mention them, so I'll put a question on them together. Yes. Clause 1.
Establishment of the National Vaccine Institute.
Clause 2.
Object of the Institute.
Clause 3.
Functions of the Institute.
Clause 4.
Governing body of the Institute.
Clause 5.
Duties and liabilities of a member of the board.
Clause 6.
Tenure of office of members of the board.
Clause 7.
Meetings of the board.
Clause 8.
Disclosure of interest.
Clause 9.
Establishment of committees.
Clause 10.
Allowances.
Clause 11.
Policy directives.
Clause 12.
Chief Executive Officer of the Institute.
Clause 13.
Functions of the Chief Executive Officer.
Clause 14.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Institute.
Clause 15.
Functions of the Deputy Chief Executive Officer.
Honourable members, there are no advertised amendments to all the listed clauses. Unless any member wishes to propose any amendments to any of them, I'll put the question. All in favour of clauses 1 to 15 of the bill being part of the bill, so aye. Say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. Clauses 1 to 15 of the bill are hereby ordered to form part of the bill. Clause 16.
Secretary to the board.
Yes, Chairman of the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, clause 16, the line 1 would remain. Previously stated to be amended. We humbly submit that line 1 remain. So the clause remain as the board shall designate the staff of the institute who is a lawyer of not less than 5 years at the bar as secretary to the board.
No. Honourable members, the proposed amendment is for the consideration of the House. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thought the chairman of the committee will at least explain to us why this amendment. Mr. Speaker, this is particularly important because the secretary of the board, per the original bill before us, is supposed to be a staff of the institute. However, this amendment makes it open-ended, that any lawyer with 5 years at the bar is qualified to be nominated as secretary of the board. Mr. Speaker, I think this is particularly important because this is the secretary of the institute, the secretary of the board. The secretary of the board should have some knowledge of the industry, and you cannot make it open-ended to bring someone from outside. Mr. Speaker, this amendment is a bit problematic. I think we will need further understanding as to why they have decided to make it open-ended and not to restrict it to a member of staff of the institute that is second to appoint to the board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we've had some consultations, and I think the position now will be that subclause 1 line 1 will delete, and then will delete a staff of the institute who is. So it will read, taking note, we will not stand, we would let the amendment proceed. We will not withdraw the yes.
The question is, why do you want a person who is not a member of the institute, even if he's a lawyer of 5 years standing or more, be the secretary to the board? He wants an explanation. Is there any explanation?
Yeah, I will yield to the minister to speak to that.
Mr. Speaker, the institute, as we are establishing, is going to be not a very huge institute. because manufacturing is ceded off to the private sector. Research is what they are going to do most. And for us to hire a lawyer to come and sit in the place to just do a board secretary, I don't think it will add on cost implications. The ministry can have a lawyer. The ministry can request the Attorney General to give us a lawyer to become a board secretary. And I think that is where we should go. It becomes very necessary for us to get a board secretary from outside. We may probably consult or hire services that might not cost us too much to run the agency with. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Before I contribute, I want to say a very big thank you to you. The Women Caucus have received chocolates, and we also encourage the other men to give their gift as you indicated. You have actually walked the talk, and we are going to let the other men follow suit. This was instruction from Mr. Speaker on Friday. Discrimination. And he has done it. It is left with the other men in the chamber to actually get in touch with the Women Caucus with our Valentine or chocolate gift. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Mr. Speaker, after that one, the reason why we need to delete a staff of the institute is because, one, it is not a very big institute, and we know that this is a specialized area, and we think that we should give the institute a free hand to source for qualified lawyers that can help the board. We think that if we have left the institute for the board to manage, we should not second guess them when it comes to choosing a lawyer for the board. That's why we have given the board the free hand to choose a lawyer for the board who is competent. The institute may just have one lawyer who will not be able to run the institute and still be on the board. So it will, one, be cheaper, it will be easier if we leave them. If there is somebody who is competent in the institution, there is no way the board will not use the person. But if we leave it open, then if they need somebody from outside, then they can get. So this is more practical. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, thank you. I appreciate my leader's point in that the specialized nature of the institute requires that even if we have a lawyer, the lawyer should have some knowledge in the work that the institute does. Now, it's become a standard provision of this house. At least I recall that within the past, all the specialized institutes that we've set up, and in making provision for the appointment of the board secretary, we ensure that the person has some competence. And I speak of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I speak of the Tree Crops, I think the Tree Crops Authority, and such other specialized agencies. So I agree with leader that yes, we want a lawyer, but it should be a lawyer with some related background in the area. These days, Mr. Speaker, the universities are offering LLM in medical ethics and all that. So you may be a lawyer, but you need to have some background in health law or medical law, so that what the institute does, you have a fair knowledge of what's happening, but not lawyer qua lawyer. So I appreciate the point that leader is making. So even if the lawyer will be a staff, we should be recruiting lawyers with some additional background in health law. So, and that is what this house does these days. So I thank you for that.
Shouldn't be the reason why the person need not be a staff. Because this appointment is just removing the who must be a staff. It makes it easier for managing the situation because you want the expertise. But you may not be able to employ a full-time person with that expertise in the organization. But he's a member of the board. He's not a staff. He comes to assist board meetings, prepares, and he goes away. So a staff, 5 years with that expertise, you can't afford it in the public service. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I can understand where you're coming from. Apart from to say that what I know with most of these professional institutions is that they pick their board secretaries from within for a reason. Mr. Speaker, these professional bodies have a unique way of doing their things. And you will not need just a lawyer, but a lawyer with a background of the institution, and to advise them appropriately anytime they need that lawyer. Mr. Speaker, if you go to, let's say, the Central Bank, the Bank of Ghana, their board secretary is a staff. A staff. Not only that, most of these professional institutions has to take their board secretary from within a staff of the institute that has knowledge. And this one, we are talking of vaccines. So if you go and pick lawyer Afenyomake, the deputy majority leader, Mr. Speaker, he may be a good lawyer, but he may not be the one to understand vaccines and the regulations around it, on the health issues around it. That is why I think that it is right for us to have a lawyer who has knowledge, and however picking it from within will be a better advantage. And that is what is actually in the original bill. But if the minister insists, I will have no problem, but he is the minister. So probably, and I think that the drafters used a staff for a reason, probably learning from best practices, and it is important we can consider that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I've listened to views expressed by Honorable Defemepo and the Honorable Minority Leader. First of all, a secretary to the board is not a member of the board. He has no voting rights. So the argument that he needs to have a medical background to make inputs is flawed. It's neither here nor there. To the extent that he is not a member of the board and does not contribute anything, you cannot insist that you need somebody with a certain background as a lawyer. In any event, if you look at clause 2, the role of the secretary have been spelled out. Arrange meetings of the board, keep records of minutes, perform other functions assigned by the board. So let's not overburden ourselves with somebody with a medical background who is also a lawyer and etc., etc. I disagree with the point that we should have a staff assigned. If you look at the Companies Act, now it's very specific. It's those days you register a company, then you say directors, and then director secretary. Now the law is clear. There must be a lawyer to be the secretary. So where he's coming from, he wants to remove the staff and then make it open. I think it makes sense. Okay, so let's not belabor. Mr. Speaker, I think I agree with Chairman that we just take away the staff to be assigned and then make it open so that the hands of the board will not be tied. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There's nothing new to add. No.
Speaker.
Yes, Eric.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I think I agree with what the Deputy Majority Leader is saying. I agree, Deputy Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, the board will appoint the secretary. And so in the wisdom of the board, they will determine the competence that they will need relative to the role we have assigned to the secretary. And so if they don't find that competence in the institute, it means that we are restricting them, that whoever is available, select the person. This one, they are removing it to make it open. That if you don't get the competence, even in the institution, you can go outside to look for the person to occupy that position. So it's as simple as ABCD.
Yes. So, Mr. Speaker, with that understanding, I may want to read the version to let it look very good. the board shall designate a lawyer of not at the bar as secretary to the board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, I am saying for the sake of that this House has adopted a certain drafting style that when it comes to these specialized institutions, even NACOC, when we're setting up the commission and you go to the board, we simply didn't say that they should recruit a lawyer as a board. We said someone with a specialized background relative to the agency that was being set up. That's what I'm saying. That's all that I'm drawing attention to. If you want to depart from it, that is fine. But I am only, yes, we are not bound, but for the sake of consistency, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So, Mr. Speaker, the rendition as it is will be for 16 one will be the board shall designate a lawyer of not less than 5 years at the bar as secretary to the board.
All in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Item 24, aye. Chairman, move your amendment. 16.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, clause 16, amendment proposed for subclause 2, paragraph B, we delete and insert the following. Keep records, minutes, and resolutions of meetings of the board.
All in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Item I. Chairman. Your amendment.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Mr. Speaker, with respect.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman should now read to us the new rendition. No? No.
We have moved.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, he only moved his amendment. He moved his amendment. He did. Thereafter, he is supposed to let us know the new rendition.
Leader, we have gone past. They have put the question on that one already.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, question on the amendment with respect. The amendment.
Well, there are 3 to clause 16. When we finish all the 3, then I'll put the question on clause 16 as variously amended. But for now, we are moving to item I, which is also an amendment to clause 16.
Yep, Mr. Speaker. Item I would also remain. The earlier proposed amendment was for subclause 2, paragraph C to be deleted. And this C was perform any other functions assigned by the board, but upon further consultations, we want it to remain.
So you withdraw the amendment.
And therefore, the amendment proposed is withdrawn accordingly.
So, amendment withdrawn. Proposed amendment withdrawn. Very well. So I'll put the question on clause 16 as variously amended. And the question is clause 16 as variously amended shall stand part of the bill. All in favor say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 16 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 17.
Appointment of other staff of the Institute.
Clause 18.
Directorates of the Institute.
Clause 19.
Funds of the Institute.
Clause 20.
Bank accounts of the Institute.
Clause 21.
Annual estimates.
Clause 22.
Expenses of the Institute.
Clause 23.
Internal audit unit.
Clause 24.
Accounts and audits.
Honourable Member, there are no proposed amendments to the mentioned clauses, unless there's a member who wants to propose any. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, clause 17.1. The President shall, in accordance with Article 195 of the Constitution, appoint other staff of the Institute that are necessary for the effective and efficient performance of the function of the Institute. Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering that the President should be the one to be appointing staff of the Institute. Mr. Speaker, it is becoming too much. For a president to be appointing staff of an institute, Speaker, I think this is a function that should be given to the minister and not the president. And not the president. Why should the president be the one to appoint staff, not board members, staff of the institute? Mr. Speaker, I think it's something we should review it and think about it. Mr. Speaker, I further propose that 17.1, the president delete and replace it with the minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader, we have gone over this thing. There was a time we actually passed the law removing this. Then the Justice Azukrab came back and said we don't have the power to change that. So we had to amend the law we did, because that is what the Constitution says. That's why. So even though the power is often exercised by the ministers, it is with the authority of the president. But in fact, the power in the Constitution is given to the president. Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I agree.
You don't have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I agree perfectly with your position, and that is exactly what the Constitution says. I know laws are made for all of us. With the experience that we have had, I think there is the need for us to really look at some of these things. Mr. Speaker, quite recently there was an issue in respect of the Cocoa Board Act. The Act mandates the President, in consonance with the Constitution, to appoint the Chief Executive, the Chairman of the Cocoa Board. Now, the Chairman of Cocoa Board was appointed by Mr. President. Then, CMC, Cocoa Marketing Company, they also have a mini board. That board is not even recognized by the Act. The President appointed chairman. So now we have two appointees, chairman for Cocoa Marketing Company Board and chairman of Cocoa Board. And there was a conflict because they were all appointed by Mr. President. So we don't legislate to create conflicts. Let's create a situation where they can work in harmony.
I invite you to our former speaker series today at 2 p.m. discussing amendments to the Constitution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I've been invited. So when I leave you, I'll go there. Please, let's go and articulate your points there. Honourable members, all in favour of clauses 17 to 24 being a part of the bill, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. Clauses 17 to 24 are ordered to stand part of the bill. Clause 25.
Mr. Speaker, subclause.
Let them read it out first. Clause 25.
Annual reports and other reports.
Amendment proposed, Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Clause 25, subclause 2. The annual report shall include the reports of the Auditor General, and then we want to insert that the new rendition becomes. Mr. Speaker, I say this by asking for your kind understanding that there is a template. There's a template on annual reports and other reports. So in addition to that would be a few of this. So as the new rendition will go, taking note of that, will be A, the annual report shall include the report of the Auditor General. B, assessment of the targets of the Institute. C, summary of the challenges and feedback from stakeholders. ND, the recommendation to improve on the effective and efficient performance of the Institute. Mr. Speaker, I so submit.
Honourable members, all in favour of the proposed amendment say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is carried. Now, clause 25 as amended of the bill. All in favour say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 25 as amended is ordered to stand part of the bill. I direct the draftspersons to insert the standard clauses as adopted by the House in clause 25 in respect of annual reports. Clause 26.
Collaboration with other institutions.
Clause 27.
Regulations.
Clause 28.
Interpretation.
Clause 29.
Transitional provisions.
All in favor of clauses 26, 27, 28, and 29, standing a part of the bill, say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. Clauses 26 to 29 are hereby ordered to stand part of the bill. The long title.
An act to establish a National Vaccine Institute to provide for the coordination and supervision of research, development and manufacturing of vaccines and sera, and for related matters.
All in favor of the long title, being a part of the bill, say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The long title is ordered to stand part of the bill. Now, members, that, yes.
Speaker, a small point under second consideration, small point under the transitional provisions. Subsection 1. The assets, rights, and properties held on behalf of or for the purpose of the Institute in existence immediately before the coming into force of this Act. Mr. Speaker, by practice, normally there would have been an institute in existence doing the work of this institute. But I see that this is a new creation. So if there's any institute under the ministry presently acting on behalf of the institute yet to be created, then we need to specify it. Subsection 1. Normally, that's what we do. We would have specified the name of the agency. So if there's something like that, we need to specify for ease of transition. It appears to be missing. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister, first agency were you expecting would have, or which agency within your ministry holds any asset which is likely to be transferred to the National Vaccine Institute?
Mr. Speaker, there is no agency at the moment. There is no agency at the moment. We have a vaccine committee that was established by the President to work on getting this bill done. Together
is it under the Ministry of Health? Is the vaccine committee under the Ministry of Health?
Under the Presidency. And I'm looking forward for that committee to be dissolved immediately after this comes into. Now they have assets because Western House are giving them some property. They are finished.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to the extent that they have assets, it would mean that we should.
That is office accommodation. Finished.
Yes. So, assets and liabilities. But the point is that the honourable member wanted to know whether they have a certain nomenclature that is in existence. If it is within a committee, then it passes for what we are. That's all he wanted you to state. So if that is the case, then we maintain it. Yes. Then we maintain it. Mr. Speaker, he says that
I think because the committee is not a legal body, so to speak, it would be inappropriate to mention it. but the clause may be necessary because the committee may hold some material assets which may be necessary to pass on. Yes, Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, especially when about 25 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to that particular creature. So I think that we need to capture that in the.
Is it allocated to the committee or to the incoming institute?
Mr. Speaker, to a large extent, it has been spent. So if it has been spent, yes, it has been spent. So there are liabilities and assets.
Very well. So what? Yes, Honourable Minister.
Let's maintain the clause. It was an allocation that has not been released. Some portion has been released. It sits. So we should maintain it.
So this one will.
Let's maintain it.
Yeah.
So I think as it is sufficient to deal with the situation. Very well. Honourable Members, that brings us to the end of consideration of the National Vaccine Institute Bill 2022 for today. Yes, Honourable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, item 25 on page 17.
Item 25, motion. Yes, by the Honourable Minister for Health.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion listed as item 25 on page 17 of the order paper. That notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 1311, which require that when a bill has passed through the consideration stage, the third reading thereof shall not be taken until at least 24 hours have elapsed. The motion for the third reading of the National Vaccine Institute Bill 2022 may be moved today. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, any seconder?
I also support the Speaker.
This is a procedural motion. All in favor of the House adopting the procedural motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Item 26.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion listed as item 26 on order paper, page 17, that the National Vaccine Institute Bill 2022 be now read the third time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Ranking Member.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honourable Members, the motion for the third reading has been moved and seconded. All in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. All against that, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
An act to establish the National Vaccine Institute to provide for the coordination and supervision of research, development and manufacturing of vaccines and sera, and for related matters.
Honourable Members, the National Vaccine Institute Bill 2022 is now read a third time and passed. Yes, Honourable Majority Leader. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, we may move to item 8D, and we'll seek your leave for the Minister of Health to lay that paper, Mr. Speaker.
Item 8D, presentation and first reading.
Yes.
Honorable Minister, yes.
An act to amend the standard for automatic exchange of financial account information, Act 2018, Act 967, to strengthen due diligence procedures, proscribe circumvention practices, and for related matters.
Honorable members, the bill is presented the first time and is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Honorable, is there any other matter? It is not 2 o'clock, so I'll require a motion to bring proceedings to a close.
Mr. Speaker, I think we've done a lot for the day. We can move for adjournment of the House.
I didn't hear what you said.
There's nothing to be done.
So move a motion for the proceedings to a close.
Mr. Speaker, I move for adjournment of this House. Thank you.
Yes, any second.
Mr. Speaker, we have no objection to the motion. I support the motion.
The motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All in favor of the House adjourning for today, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.